So you have your multiplication facts. Either you have memorized them or you have your multiplication table. But what happens when we need a multiplication fact that you don't have? Say, for instance, you need to find out what 28 times 3 is. 28 is your first factor, and the expanded form of 28 is 20 plus 8. So when we multiply 28 by 3, we're really multiplying the quantity 20 plus 8 times 3. The distributive property tells us that this is 20 times 3 plus 8 times 3, and the box method helps us to do this multiplication. In the box method, each place value in the first factor gets its own column, and each place value in the second factor gets its own row. Here, look at it this way. You can see that the first column is labeled 20 and the second column is labeled 8. Our second factor only uses the ones place, so we only have one row and we label that 3. Now we use our multiplication facts to fill in these boxes. In each box, you multiply the column's label number by the row's label number. So this first box is 20 times 3. I can use my math fact knowledge that 2 times 3 equals 6, and then, because I had a total of 1 0 at the end of my factors, I add 1 0 to the end of the product. So this box's value is 60. The second box is 8 times 3, which I know is equal to 24. This box's value is 24. Remember that we used the distributive property to turn 28 times 3 into 20 times 3 plus 8 times 3. We found that 20 times 3 equals 60 and 8 times 3 equals 24, so our next step is to add these numbers together. 60 plus 24 equals 84. We've used the box method to find that 28 times 3 equals 84. Let's try another one. 73 times 4. 73 is your first factor, and the expanded form of 73 is 70 plus 3. So when we multiply 73 by 4, we're really multiplying the quantity 70 plus 3 times 4. The distributive property tells us that this is 70 times 4 plus 3 times 4. Let's use our multiplication facts to fill in these boxes. This first box is 70 times 4. I can use my math fact knowledge that 7 times 4 equals 28, and then because I had a total of 1 0 at the end of my factors, I add 1 0 to the end of the product. So this box's value is 280. The second box is 3 times 4, which I know is equal to 12, so this box's value is 12. Remember that we used the distributive property to turn 73 times 4 into 70 times 4 plus 3 times 4. We found that 70 times 4 equals 280, and 3 times 4 equals 12. So our next step is to add these numbers together. 280 plus 12 equals 292. We've used the box method to find that 73 times 4 equals 292. Let's try a slightly harder one. 86 times 23. This is 80 plus 6 times 20 plus 3. Using the distributive property, we know this is equal to 80 times 20 plus 80 times 3 plus 6 times 20 plus 6 times 3. Again, we set up our box with a column for each place value in the first factor and a row for each place value in the second factor. In this box, we multiply 80 times 20. Our multiplication facts tell us that 8 times 2 is 16. We had a total of 2 zeros at the end of the factors, so we add 2 zeros to the end of our product. 80 times 20 equals 1,600. In our next box, 80 times 3, we know that 8 times 3 equals 24. There is a total of 1 zero at the end of the factors, so we add 1 zero to the end of the product. 80 times 3 equals 240. Now for this box, 6 times 20. 6 times 2 equals 12, and we had 1 0 at the end of our factors, so 60 times 2 equals 120. For our last multiplication fact, we know that 6 times 3 equals 18. Finally, we add our values together. 1,600 plus 240 plus 120 plus 18 equals 1,978. Let's try one more. What if we need to multiply 156 and 387? We know that 156 equals 100 plus 50 plus 6, and 387 equals 300 plus 80 plus 7. And we know that the distributive property is going to have us multiply every number in the expanded form of 156 by every number in the expanded form of 387 and add those products together. Fortunately, we know we can rely on the box method to sort these all out for us. So let's draw our box. Now we start multiplying. 100 times 300. 1 times 3 equals 3, and then there are a total of 4 zeros. So this is 30,000. 100 times 80. 1 times 8 equals 8, and we need to add 3 zeros, so 8,000. 100 times 7. We know that 7 sets of 100 equals 700. Moving to the next column, 50 times 300. 5 times 3 equals 15, and we have a total of 3 zeros to add, so 15,000. 50 times 80. 5 times 8 equals 40, and then we have a total of 2 zeros at the end of our factors, so we add 2 zeros to the end of 40 and get 4,000. 50 times 7. Our math facts tell us that 5 times 7 equals 35, and we have 1 zero to add, so 50 times 7 equals 350. Now to our last column. 6 times 300. 6 times 3 equals 18, then add 2 zeros to get 1,800. 6 times 80. 6 times 8 equals 48, and we have 1 zero to add to the end. 6 times 80 equals 480. And lastly, 6 times 7 equals 42. Now all we have to do is add this column of numbers up and carry the 1, carry the 2, carry another 2. We have 60,372. We can use the box method to multiply numbers of any size, but we can see it starts to get to be a lot to manage. In the next video, we'll talk about the standard algorithm for multiplication.